Imagine a time long, long ago, a time when the way people lived together was just starting to grow. This was Mesopotamia, a special land found between two rivers. Here, people looked up at the stars and felt amazed. They saw shapes in the stars, and they told stories about what they saw. And in these stories we find the Anunnaki. These were powerful folks. They were also very mysterious. Their stories were carved onto clay pieces, like quiet messages from a very old time. The ancient Sumerians were really special people. They lived in the land that we now call Iraq. They came up with writing, the wheel, and they even studied the stars. On many flat pieces of clay, using a special writing called cuneiform, they wrote down what they believed. Among all their gods and goddesses, the Anunnaki were extra special. They were seen as a group of super strong gods, often connected to the sky and the earth. So what does the name Anunnaki actually mean? It's a really interesting name. Smart people who study history think it means something like children of princes or those who come from kings and queens. The people in Mesopotamia believed in lots of gods and goddesses. It was like a big family of them. The Anunnaki were an important group among these gods. People often thought of them as the children of Anu, the sky god, and Ki, the earth mother. How many Anunnaki there were and how important they were could be different in various cities or at different times in their history. In the old stories, some of the Anunnaki were very well known. Enki, also known as Ea, was the god of wisdom, magic and fresh water, like rivers and lakes. He was often shown as a smart god who sometimes played tricks, and he was a friend to people. Then there was Enlil. He was a more serious and powerful god. He was connected with wind, air and storms. And sometimes people thought of him as the one who made sure the gods' rules were followed. Inanna, later known as Ishtar, was a goddess of many things: love, beauty, war and having power, like a queen. These gods and goddesses and others in the Anunnaki group all had their own personalities and special jobs. The Anunnaki show up as important characters in big famous stories and poems from that time. The story of Gilgamesh, which is one of the oldest stories we know, talks about them. In a story called Enuma Elish, that's the Babylonian story about how the world was created, the Anunnaki take part in huge battles between the gods. They also helped the god Marduk bring order to everything. So the Anunnaki, as part of this big group of gods, helped the people in ancient Mesopotamia figure out what was right and wrong, and shaped their beliefs about the world and spiritual things. For a very long time, people thought of the Anunnaki as just characters in old stories, but then in the 1900s, people started to think about them in a new way. This was a time when countries were racing to go to space. People were seeing UFOs, and many got really interested in whether there was life on other planets. It was during this time that the idea of ancient astronauts started. This idea said that many old stories and big stone buildings from long ago were signs that smart aliens had visited Earth in our distant past. The main person who made this idea popular, that the Anunnaki were aliens, was a man named Zecharia Sitchin. Starting in the 1970s, Sitchin wrote a bunch of books. The first one was called The 12th Planet. He said he had figured out old writings from Sumeria called cuneiform texts in a new way. Sitchin said these writings talked about visitors from outer space who came from a planet named Nibiru. He said this planet traveled in a long oval path. It would come near Earth and the other planets close to our Sun every 3,600 years. Sitchin's story had a lot of details. He said these Anunnaki came to Earth a super long time ago, hundreds of thousands of years. Zecharia Sitchin had a very specific idea about Nibiru. He said it was a big planet in our solar system with a really long stretched out path. This path, he said, took 3,600 Earth years to go all the way around. Each time Nibiru came near the inner planets, he said it caused huge disasters on Earth. Now let's talk about something else, a hidden planet that scientists call Planet X. The idea of a planet we can't see in our solar system isn't really new. A long time ago, astronomer Percival Lowell thought there might be a Planet X past Neptune. He thought its pull was messing with how Uranus and Neptune moved. His search helped lead to Clyde Tombaugh finding Pluto in 1930. But Pluto was too small to cause those changes in the other planets' paths. More recently, in 2016, scientists Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown from Caltech said they found strong proof of another hidden planet. They nicknamed it Planet 9. The Anunnaki are really interesting, whether you think of them as old gods or as maybe alien visitors, and people who make movies, books and games really love this idea. These stories mix together history, old myths and science fiction. They make us wonder about where we all came from and if there are hidden things that control what happens to us. The idea of creatures coming down from the sky is a really great starting point for all sorts of stories. So in these stories, they can be seen as kind helpers, or as really scary bad guys who take over. We see stories about the Anunnaki in lots of different places, like in books and video games. In these stories, they're often shown with super cool tools and powers, almost like gods, and that makes us think hard about what we really know and where we fit in the whole universe. It might surprise you, but even the Scooby-Doo world has looked into the Anunnaki mystery. The cartoon show Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated was on TV from 2010 to 2013. It was much darker and its story continued from one episode to the next. This was different from the older shows about the gang we all love. This show had a big, complicated story. It included old predictions, cursed treasure, and you guessed it, beings from other worlds called the Anunnaki. This wasn't like the usual bad guy in a mask. The problems were really big, like universe big. In this show's story, the Anunnaki weren't quite like the aliens from a planet called Nibiru that some people talk about. Instead, they were shown as very strong beings from other dimensions, kind of like giant, scary monsters from another world. The story in the show said that these beings came to Earth a very long time ago. The show said that when they were here, or when their world got close to our world, the walls between the worlds got weaker. This meant they could meet the first people on Earth and change things that happened here. The show cleverly linked this to old writings from Babylonia. It also used the idea that a special star or planet lining up in the sky was key for these worlds to connect. One of the most interesting things about the Anunnaki in Mystery Incorporated was how they were connected to animals. The show suggested that these beings from other dimensions used animals. It was like the animals were containers or pathways for their thoughts or power. By using these animals, they became the first gods for people. Long ago, people worshipped them and were also afraid of them. And here's a really cool twist. The show hinted that Scooby-Doo was smart and could talk because these ancient space beings had messed with things long ago. Let's take a trip to the very cold, not very bright, faraway parts of our solar system. Way past, where Neptune goes around the Sun, there's a huge donut-shaped area in space called the Kuiper belt. This isn't just empty space, it's full of tons of icy things. They can be small pieces of frozen gas and rock, or as big as small planets like Pluto, Eris, Makemake and Haumea. The Kuiper belt is like a giant freezer out in space. It's keeping things safe from when our solar system first started, about 4.5 billion years ago. It's a really interesting new place. It has clues about how planets were made and how our solar system changed to be like it is now. The idea for the Kuiper belt was first seriously suggested by an astronomer, Gerard Kuiper, in 1951. For many years, it was mostly just an idea. Then, in 1992, they found the first thing in the Kuiper belt besides Pluto and its moon, Charon. After that, they started finding lots more. Since that time, they've found thousands of these Kuiper belt objects. This showed that this far-off area is a really big part of our solar system. Exploring the Kuiper belt is a really big challenge. These things are super far away, small, and don't shine much sunlight back. So they are hard to see from Earth because they are not very bright. But trips into space, like NASA's New Horizons spaceship, have let us see them up close for the first time. New discoveries can really make us rethink what we know about our solar system. In November 2024, astronomers using the Subaru telescope in Hawaii found a surprising increase in what are called Kuiper belt objects. or KBOs. This discovery suggests our understanding of the Kuiper belt structure might be missing some pieces. The findings showed lots of KBOs grouped together, way out at 70 to 90 astronomical units, or AU, from the Sun. This packed band of objects is then set apart by a big empty space between 55 and 70 AU. This makes us think the Kuiper belt might actually have at least two separate sections. Planetary scientists think the primordial solar nebula, the cloud our solar system grew from, was likely much bigger than they once believed. We've gone on a big trip in our minds. We started in a green land called Mesopotamia, from way back in time, all the way to the really cold, icy parts at the edge of our solar system today. We've seen how the Anunnaki started out as powerful, like gods, written about on old clay pieces from a place called Sumer. They stood for the power of nature and the stars. Many, many years after that, people thought these same names meant spacemen from the past, who came from a planet some people call Nibiru, a planet they think might exist. And now when we use our powerful telescopes to look far, far into space, we're finding real puzzles to solve in places like the Kuiper belt. All this searching and asking questions shows something really important about people. We always want to know where we came from and where we fit in this giant universe. The Anunnaki story, told in many different ways, makes us ask some really big questions, like, are we the only ones out here? Did smart creatures from other planets ever visit Earth? What giant things in space made us who we are, and what could change our future? The Anunnaki story, even if it's just an old tale or an idea that's not proven by science, helps us think about our big questions, our worries, and our hopes about what we don't know. But it's really, really important to think clearly when we explore these cool ideas. The way scientists learn things, by looking for clues, trying out ideas, and having other scientists check their work, is the best way we have to understand how the universe really works. Ideas like Planet 9 or the new things we found in the Kuiper belt came from this careful way of studying. They make us want to learn even more about them. The universe, it turns out, is much more wonderful and has more to it than any one story can tell. So if we're trying to understand old writings, or looking at light from stars far away, or watching how things move in the Kuiper belt, we're all doing the same big thing, trying to learn more.